It's good. Hello.
Good morning, everybody.
Welcome to our Brew Better live series, just talking about all the good things about coffee. I'm Joshua, the Director of Tech here at Stone Creek.
And I'm Jessica, the Director of Coffee here at Stone Creek.
What are we doing today, Jessica?
Today we're actually going to talk to you about water quality.
Ooh, high quality H2O, which is the primary ingredient when you make, well, I guess there's two primary ingredients, but one of the things that is super, super important. Are we getting sound and everything? Cool. Just want to make sure. One of the things that's super important about your coffee is water. And a lot of times you will take a long time finding good coffee, finding the right roaster. But even if you have the best coffee, if you have bad water, it's going to be a bad cup.
Yeah, so in the last video that we did, we talked about grind size and how changing your grind particle size can greatly alter the way that the coffee brews and therefore tastes. But just because you've updated your grind particle size doesn't mean that you fixed the problem that you're facing in the cup. So if you updated your grind particle size and it's still not tasting quite right, we've got you covered today because we're going to talk to you about the ways that you can alter your brew method by filtering your water properly.
So before we get started, we just want to send a very kind reminder that before you drink any coffee, you should always hydrate first.
Yeah, always good to hydrate. So cheers to hydration.
So that's that. I was going to do that Adam Sandler quote, and I'm not going to do it because it's overused. But so we've got two different types of water here. We have some water that we have RO system or reverse osmosis system downstairs. And what reverse osmosis does is takes away all of the minerals and particles and like carbon and everything out of the water and brings it pretty close to a total hardness of, I would say around 50 or 40. And not total hardness, but I'm trying to remember the exact term. But either way, it takes a lot of that hardness out of the water. And so what we did is we took that RO and we added some of this awesome product that we've got on our website called Third Wave Water. What it has is 3 separate minerals in it. I believe it's calcium carbonate, magnesium sulfate, and calcium citrate, which are all really great for coffee, really great for water just in general. And we'll go into like the science of that a little bit more later. But then we also have another coffee which you brought, or another water that you brought today. What's that all about?
Yeah, so I brought some water from my tap at home. So I wanted to kind of show you all what you might be experiencing at home if you live in Milwaukee, but possibly if you live elsewhere as well. So we're going to brew first a V60 with the water that I brought from my tap. And then we're going to talk through how it tastes.
Yeah.
And by talking through how it tastes and tasting this with this specific water, we're going to be able to see how bad quality water makes your coffee taste. I don't use this water directly from my tap when I brew at home. And as we'll see when we taste it, there's definitely a reason for that. There's definitely ways that you can make your coffee taste better at home. And water is going to be one of them.
While we're doing that, I'm going to go grab a spoon so we can excavate that coffee. I think there's some back here.
So as we talked about before, I started out by rinsing my filter with about 200 grams of water. Rinsing out your filter is just going to help take away some of the flavor that the coffee filter has. Now I'm going to add 24 grams of coffee. Wow, that weighed out perfectly.
On the dot.
What a happy Friday. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and tear that after I add it in. I flattened out the grounds bed. And now I'm going to put on 70 grams of water to bloom. And something to pay attention to while we do this is actually how long it takes for the coffee to brew. Depending on whether or not your coffee water is soft or hard, it's going to brew faster or slower.
Yep.
So just like the grind particle size affected things, the water can affect things, and more than you can see.
Yes, softened water actually, it doesn't create like a tangible gumminess to the coffee, but it creates a little bit tougher of a substance for it to be able to filter through. So as you'll be able to see as we're going through, any kind of softened water is gonna, as Jessica said, gonna take a lot longer to filter through. But hard water will go through the way that we would want it to. So we're trying to find like somewhere in that middle, in like the balance. So yeah, water's crazy. So as we're going through this, there's gonna be a lot of terms and a lot of things that we'll be talking about. Definitely check it out, research it for yourself, check out what kind of water you have at your home, and then adjust accordingly.
Yeah, definitely feel free to ask us questions as you watch this video. And you can always feel free to reach out to us via email at customers@stonecreekcoffee.com with any further questions that you have. It kind of almost seems like it's a whirlwind when we do these videos.
Yes.
The 30 minutes goes by so fast.
So fast.
So please don't hesitate to ask us any questions that you have. We're always really happy to help.
Yeah, I do have both of the Facebook and the YouTube chat comments section open to my left. So if you have any questions, I'll be checking that periodically and hopefully be able to answer anything.
To interrupt, wow,
sorry.
Look at how fast this is brewing. So this brewed incredibly fast. We barely got to talk about anything because of how quickly it brewed. So I'm really curious what it's going to taste like when we taste this brew. We'll find out soon.
So quick. And so this is the coffee that you brought from your home and unfiltered, just standard, straight from the city.
Yep, so this is the water that I brought from my home. I live on the south side and it definitely hasn't been filtered at all. So this is just the experience of drinking and brewing water right out of the tap.
Woo.
Could I please have that picture?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Now is the moment of truth.
Grab these for the next one.
And the really fun thing is that you can do these kind of experiments at home. So you can go ahead and purchase some of this third wave water, make some of the water at home, brew with it, and then brew some coffee with water from your tap and see the kind of differences that you're experiencing. Anyone can be a coffee geek, and that's why we're here to show you these things, because the knowledge is for everyone.
Yes.
So let's try this and see how it's tasting. It tastes kind of flat, but also sour.
Yeah. There's kind of there's not a lot of complexity to it. When I'm drinking, especially Bone Shaker, when I'm drinking Bone Shaker, I'm looking for a lot of that super welcomed acidity, a little bit of citrus, very smooth, but I'm just getting a lot of like, almost, it feels like really, I don't know, hardness, but yeah, tart.
Yeah, it's almost like an astringency that comes through. So when I'm talking about astringency, it's almost like something that's caustic in your tongue. So your tongue kind of like, your taste buds shrivel up because they're offended by how astringent this tastes.
Super dry.
So you can kind of listen to the cues of your body, right? When you're drinking coffee, your taste buds are letting you know whether or not you like something. So if you taste a cup of coffee like this and you're like, wow, this is astringent, there's something amiss, and that means that there's something that you can change to make it taste better, which I think is super awesome because that means that we're not stuck with things that we don't like tasting. We can elevate the experience at home with products like this. And now we're going to talk about this particular product, which is new to the StoneCreekCoffee.com website, but not a new product. So Third Wave Water is a really incredible product that you can take anywhere with you. So you could take these little packs with you on an airplane even, which I think is super cool.
Super cool.
They're also really nice for camping. Look at how small this packet is. It's kind of like an electrolyte pack if you drink those.
Yes. Yeah.
So I really like how easy it is to carry these around. I can fit in my pocket, fit in my backpack, take it anywhere. It's easy to put it in a bag if you're camping, whatever you want to do. So now that we have this Third Wave Water, we've actually went ahead and already made some. So if you want to grab that growler, we simply filled a growler of water with our RO water from the tap. So if you don't have RO water, you're going to need to use distilled water. Since RO water is what we had around, it's what we're using. We're really big fans here of using what you have around, utilizing the resources that you have at your fingertips. So this is what we did today. So we took that RO water from the tap and then we added one of these filter packets to it. And by doing that, we created water that's perfect for brewing. So it kind of takes out all of the guesswork of figuring out how to increase the quality of your water. You can go ahead and do things like make an RO system by yourself at home. But there's a lot of guesswork involved to that. You're not sure what you need to do. You don't want to do it wrong. So Third Wave Water does it for you.
Yes. And the reason why Third Wave Water asks for you to have distilled water, which kind of just going into the science of water here real quick, natural spring water, like anytime you go to a Walmart, Pick and Save, anything like that, to get water in those gallons, you've got options like distilled water, you've got filtered water. Sometimes they have RO water, which is pretty cool. But distilled water is made by boiling the water and taking the condensation and then taking that water, which is completely void of any minerals. So it's at a hardness of 0. And so what we're doing with that 0 hardness water is we're adding back just the right amount of minerals, like you were saying, that we want in the water. Because if we have, a lot of times you'll hear in the coffee industry, you don't want to use distilled water for your coffee because it has no minerals at all. And what happens is when you're boiling it in a kettle like we have here, or if you have a brewer at home, it starts to leach those minerals from the steel or the metal or the copper that's in that brewer. And we don't want that. That's nasty.
No, you definitely don't want that at all.
So we want this to be able to even it out, give the water what it needs, so it's no longer putting any sediment or anything on the filters or on the brewer itself, or it's also not pulling anything from it, which is perfect. And that's what we have.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a perfect segue too into talking about Pier filters and things like that. So a lot of people at homes have things like Pier filters and pitchers like Brita as well. And those filter systems do help filter out a lot of things from the water. But just because you're filtering things out from the water doesn't mean that you're making the coffee better. Because it's not necessarily about filtering everything out. It's about filtering the right things out. And that is, again, one of the reasons why this is so cool, because it's going to add back in the things that we want from that water that was already essentially purified.
Yeah.
So again, this is just super cool. And in a little bit, we're going to show you a new product that we'll have shortly at Stone Creek that we're really excited about too.
Yeah. Real quick, we do have a question on our YouTube channel. Is there, this is from Angelina, is there any easy way to test the quality of my water at home? That is a good question. And
that's a great question. Thank you, Angelina.
Yes. So if you're looking to test the water quality at home, there are 2 ways that you can do that. And there's 2 things that you're looking for. You're looking for alkalinity,
yep,
and you're looking for pH, or pH is alkalinity, or you're looking for the hardness. And one of the things that you can get is a TDS meter. These things run for, I think, $12 on Amazon. You can get them anywhere.
And if you buy a Pier water filter pitcher, it actually comes with one of these in the lid. So it's kind of like 2 for 1.
So what you're looking for a good cup of coffee, what you're looking for is anywhere between 140 and 160 TDS. And that's going to kind of be like our sweet spot. And then for alkalinity, I would say you're kind of looking to be a little bit more on so the alkalinity scale is 1 to 14, 7 being right in the middle, 14 being very basic, 1 being super acidic or 0. And we're looking to be kind of right in the middle, a little more towards the acidic side. So you can get pH strips as well, which you can get at any science store. Yeah. Amazon has them, anything like that. They're like $2 for a packet of 150 of them.
Yeah, I'm sure you can probably go somewhere like American Science and Surplus if you live in the area. They definitely have those.
Yeah, and we also just remembered someone, our good guy Zach behind the camera told us that we can get hardness strips as well. Just like your pH strips, you can get hardness strips, which will help you test. Also at, sorry, I'm kind of just going off on this, but at pet supply stores, they also have hardness kits for when you have like a fish tank, and they may have some stuff that you can look into as well.
Yeah, and if you live in the suburbs of Milwaukee, Lake Country, or even in the Madison area, it's especially important to test the hardness of your water. Yep. So those tests are going to come into play a lot for you. And then this is something that we're going to especially recommend if you live somewhere where there's really hard water, just because it's going to be really difficult to filter the water in the way that you need to. But that doesn't mean that you can't work with what you have. I want to make that a really big, important point here too. Just because you don't have third wave water doesn't mean that you can't make absolutely delicious coffee. It's all about figuring out how to adjust the variables and playing with the things that you have. So if you're not able to play with the water, then do something like adjust the grind particle size. And in the future, we'll talk more about the different ways that we can adjust other variables to kind of clean up your brew.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so we've tasted the city water.
Yep.
Now let's go ahead and taste this third wave water. I've got a little kettle going on over here. Make sure it's heating the way we want it.
So just a little tip while we're waiting for that water to be ready, something that I'm sure some of you have noticed me doing while we're brewing coffee during these videos is that I always fold the filter. So when you're brewing a V60, it's a really great idea to fold the filter along the edge, because it's actually going to sit inside of the V60 itself much better if you fold it. So that's just a little pro tip. to help you along the way. It helps it too so that the filter doesn't cave in while you're brewing.
Yes.
That happens to us all anyway, though.
Too many times to count.
Even if you're a brew expert.
All right, so I'm just pre-wetting that filter.
I was brewing coffee with my son the other day and letting him excavate the grounds for me, and he pushed the filter edge in. But you know what? The coffee still turned out great. All you need to do if that happens is push it back out to the side. And then if any fines from the coffee grounds get in your coffee, you can actually just go ahead and run that coffee back through another V60 filter to filter them out. That way you don't waste anything. And I'm a big fan of no waste.
There you go. All right, so we got our 24, it was 25, but that's okay. 24 grams of coffee in there. Doing that 70-gram bloom for 30 seconds. And again, we're doing this bloom to release those gases that we don't want in there. We're allowing all of the coffee to get saturated the way we want it. So now we're just kind of waiting for that bloom. And I don't know, what else can we talk about with this water? There's so much to talk about, but also it's confined into a small space. So definitely when you're looking for your water out and about, if you are deciding to like kind of step into that little bit more elevated, checking into your water, a little bit more geeky, as we like to call it here. Definitely take a look if this third wave water is not something that you are interested in just yet. Definitely go for that natural spring water that you can get at anywhere, any supermarket. That's going to at least get you in the right direction and give you a little bit better of a experience.
Yeah. And then I want you all, you can see that I've been watching this like a hawk. I want you all to pay attention to how quickly this is brewing compared to the last brew. It looks to me like it's brewing a little bit slower and pulling through the ground fed slower, which is something that's really cool and interesting. It's really cool to be able to observe science happening in front of you through something like coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Science is accessible to us all at our fingertips, and it's really cool that we can kind of fuse these two things together, our passion for coffee and also our passion to never stop learning.
Yes. I actually got 2 more cups so that we could, I don't know if you dumped yours already.
Yeah,
or not.
I did dump mine. I didn't want any more of that for now.
I left mine so I could do a
taste test
comparison. Back and forth.
That's
always, I know you were talking about it a little bit earlier, but that's always something really fun to do is if you have separate brew methods, or if you have a brewer at home, make a pot without filtered water, make a pot with, go back and forth. And that's a really easy way, right back and forth, to find out like, oh, that particular flavor I don't like. And when I brew it with this way, that's not there anymore. So it's figuring that out. And that's the journey and the experience and the fun of coffee, is being able to find out, oh, I didn't like that. Let's test it. Let's keep going. When can I get to that perfect cup?
Yeah, and kind of just finding what suits you, what works for you. We're always going to kind of hark on the fact that you can brew things better, but you can also brew them to be more of what you want and what you're looking for. So just because we're brewing things one way doesn't mean that your way of brewing things isn't right.
Totally. That's awesome about coffee. I'm gonna talk while I'm off screen. So
that's one of the things that I love about coffee. So I'm really excited to taste this now. And as you saw before, I took the opportunity to hydrate while I taste coffee, since it's something that is something I do a lot of in my role. It's really essential for me to make sure that I'm well hydrated, just because you're not going to be able to have the same keen perception that you have if you're over caffeinated.
This is true. And remember to always let your coffee cool a little bit. Right off the V60, right out of the brewer, your coffee can be really hot. You won't be able to taste a lot of stuff. So you can always blow on it. You can swirl it. Sometimes people will decant back and forth into different vessels to allow it to cool down faster. Just little tips as we're waiting, because I can't handle super, super hot coffee.
See, and for me, I really enjoy drinking super hot coffee. Something about tasting coffee that's really cool that you can do at home is tasting coffee at different temperatures and seeing how things like essential oils, aromas, and flavors present themselves to you over time. So when I cup coffee in our cupping lab, which is actually just behind us, something that I do is taste the coffees when they're hot. So when they're about 190 degrees, 180 degrees, when they're warm, around 150 to 160 degrees, and then when they're tepid. So when they're getting closer to being room temperature. And within that whole temperature range, there's so much to taste. And you can actually perceive essential oils the most when a liquid is hot.
Oh, okay.
So
I didn't know that.
that's one of the reasons why it's really satisfying when you put a mug of coffee up to your face and smell it when it's still warm. So that's something that I really enjoy doing, but it's also important to be careful and not burn yourself because it's difficult to taste with a burnt tongue.
Yes, indeed. I cannot handle the hot liquids for sure. But
wow, this tastes
that's
great.
night and day.
This is what I would expect in the cupping lab. And that's something that we're kind of trying to bring you closer to, is that experience that we have when we source and we roast and profile these coffees. And this is it.
Yes.
So if you really want to step up your game, if you really want to make your water taste better, this product, this Third Wave water, is going to do that. And it's relatively affordable.
Yes.
And each one of these packets makes a gallon of water. So that's going to last you several brews.
12 gallons per pack, which is really, really great. Those gallons you can get at Walmart or anything like that for about like 88 cents to 98 cents, something like that. So if you think about it and you do have that coffee every morning, this is a great, great investment to figure out, oh, so I go to a coffee shop and I want to get that same taste that I can get when I go to Stone Creek or when I go to any other coffee shop. This is the way to get it at home. I know a lot of people are trying to just bring that comfort at home, especially with what's been going on over the last year. We want to make that comfort at home, and this is a great way to start doing that.
Yeah, it's perfect. This is like drinking a warm blanket. It's just that comforting to have a mug of coffee that's that well brewed. And this is a great opportunity too to talk about the actual coffee that we're drinking. So the coffee that we're drinking is Bone Shaker Colombia. It's one of our year-round offerings. This coffee is sourced from various farmers in the Huila region of Colombia. And it features Castillo and Caturra varietals that were wash processed. This is a relatively high-grown coffee. It's grown from 1680 to 1700 meters above sea level. So that's pretty high altitude. And that altitude actually helps the flavors in the coffee beans develop more because they're able to go through more stages of photosynthesis the longer they stay on the coffee tree. So this coffee is sweet, clean, and juicy, which is exactly the experience that we're looking for in a cup at Stone Creek.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I just went back and forth with those two coffees. It is a night and day difference. There's a little bit of
it's a world of difference.
Kind of hits you in the face. The first one that just came from the city, it's like a very instant, like, oh, something's like not right. So as you're doing this, as you're tasting your water at home, as you're tasting water from the store, listen, as you were saying before, listen to your body, listen to your taste buds. They're going to tell you a lot more right up front than you'd find out through pH strips or anything like that. So play around with it, figure out what works for you, and find that perfect cup.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that's achievable. And before we go, I have one more product to show you that I'm especially excited about.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a Peak water pitcher. A Peak water pitcher is kind of like an elevated Brita pitcher. I mean, look at this. It's kind of like a spaceship.
Very sleek.
But it's a spaceship for water to taste better. And one of the coolest things about this water filter is that you can choose your hardness or softness. So this dial on top actually allows me to change whether or not the water is softer or harder. So this is a way that you can really fine tune your brewing experience, really kick it up, take it next level. I have not played with this pitcher yet, but I'm super excited to, and I'm really excited that we'll be able to offer this to our customers. I just think this is cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could take it anywhere. You could take it camping with you. I mean, if you have the right gear, if you're bringing a cooler with you or something like that, this is awesome.
Yes.
You don't even have to have truly filtered water for this. And that's one of the things that Peak advertises with this particular pitcher, is that you can make delicious filtered water anywhere in the world. So we're bringing that to Wisconsin.
Yes, and remember, all this filtered water is awesome for your coffee. It's great to change the flavor, change the quality of your coffee, but also remember that this water is perfect for drinking too. I know that seems to be like a no-brainer, but a lot of times, like, use this water to drink. It will change your life when you have a cup of filtered water and a cup of just regular faucet water, how that will actually change, and that directly translates into your coffee.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining us today on this Coffee Geek Live TV. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us at Stone Creek. We're always happy to help. A Coffee Pro is just one keystroke away.
One little click away. All right, y'all. Never stop learning. We'll see you later.
Bye.